Okay, now I think it's Stacia.
Stacia.
Stacia, thank you for coming on with Stacia. I really appreciate it. And so for I think for everybody that's going to listen or watch this, this is definitely going to be one where it's going to take a turn towards something completely different because they've kind of been a theme of running lately on
Okay.
this. So I want you to just tell your story, and then if I have questions as I go, I'll ask. If you have any questions for me, fantastic. But
Super.
I think it's going to be an exciting conversation because it's something I don't know much about at all. I
Sure.
know I thought about a story this morning to tell that there was a run in Boston. It was the Boston Run to Remember, and after the race, it was like a half marathon downtown Boston, and you could become a bone marrow donor, like, on the
Yep.
registry.
Sure.
So like they would do, I
Yep.
think all
They'll
they did was
match
a
a swab
swab,
of your
you
cheek. Yep.
signed, and that
Yep.
was shoot 2004. So
And
I've
it
been
used to be called Be the Match.
okay,
That was the organization name. It has changed, and I
okay,
I can't remember the new name, but
yeah,
principles still apply.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me all about you.
Okay. Well, I'm Stacia Carroll. Best way to know how to pronounce my name is the train stops at the station.
Okay,
So I've had a couple people tell me that my name's kind of difficult to pronounce. So I kind of went by Stacy growing up for that reason. Um, Born and raised in Bettendorf
okay.
and went to Pleasant Valley schools and have really stayed here my whole life, raised our children here. I'm married to Tim Carroll, and we've been married 28 years. He's
Congratulations.
not from the area.
Okay.
He actually came to the Quad Cities originally to finish studies to go to Palmer College of
Oh,
Chiropractic.
okay.
And after learning we were pregnant shortly after we were married, it was kind of like, okay, do I want to do that and be in school?
Yeah.
And so his career path kind of took a turn for a different path in sales. So he's actually been in the logistics business
Okay.
for most of his career. So um, we have three children, a 20, almost 27-year-old daughter who she's married, and she and her husband are professional opera singers. So that's kind
Well,
of a
yeah.
um, unique career path.
Wait, so this is your
This is our daughter,
and her husband
husband. They're
are
both
both.
professional opera singers.
Okay. Now, sorry to interrupt, but I always like
Sure.
when I had on another guest, Brian Dorfeld, I said, like golf just seems like a sport when you're a kid, it's somebody else played. Did
Sure.
anybody sing?
No, no.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I have always said it is truly a gift from God. It's a charism. Music is a spiritual gift.
Yeah.
So she has literally been singing since she could make sound. And so she's actually doing it professionally and
Where do
loves
they
it.
live?
So they're actually, as we speak, on their way with all of their belongings from Houston, Texas to Washington, D.C. So
Mm.
she will be working at the Kennedy Center for
Oh,
the
wow.
next 2 years
Holy
with the
smoke.
Washington National Opera. So,
That's incredible.
yeah,
Congratulations on
thank
that.
you.
That's really
Thank
cool.
you. And I don't know if you saw, I had shared with you on Messenger that taking chances must run in the family a little bit because Brian Dorfeld is actually my cousin.
Okay, well,
So that's
there
kind of,
you
and
go.
actually his grandmother is musical.
Okay.
I just learned yesterday she had gotten herself a keyboard and was learning or relearning how to play piano.
Oh,
So
wow.
there is music in the family for sure.
Okay.
So, um, and then we have a almost 22-year-old son who we are moving out to Washington, D.C. as
Oh,
well
wow.
tomorrow. He actually is in the healthcare field, so he's a surgical tech
Okay.
and will be living with his sister and brother-in-law. And then the
Oh, wow.
youngest is a almost 20-year-old in a couple weeks, and he is pursuing fire science at Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids.
Fire
So,
science.
yep, wants to be a fireman.
Oh, my younger brother Matt is a fireman
Okay,
back in
excellent.
Peabody, Mass.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
Yeah.
I work. I'm actually in the healthcare
Hmm.
field. Have been my whole life. Currently working for Trinity Health, which is a national Catholic health system located in Livonia, Michigan. And I work on the Total Rewards Benefits and Wellbeing team. So
Ah,
I'm really
okay.
responsible for
Yeah.
helping colleagues be well in mind, body, and spirit. And I've also been in the fitness profession for 30 years in the community. So I also work at the YMCA
Yeah.
and teach classes. You said your show has been predominantly themed around running with many of your guests. And I would say I have run on numerous occasions.
Mhm.
I can typically be found running for a cause.
Yeah.
That's usually the only thing that brings me out to
Mhm.
run. And kind of one of the cool things that I think ties it into your, what your viewers are used to seeing is that I will be turning 50 this year. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to be 50. This is going to be my 3-year liver transplant anniversary. I want to run a marathon.
Okay.
So I'm actually running the Med City Marathon on May 7th or May 16th rather, 2026 in Rochester, Minnesota. So that'll be my first marathon. And actually I was going to reach out to Brian Dorfeld and say,
There
hey,
you go.
cuz
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
help train me for this?
Yeah.
Not looking at breaking any records or just wanting to get done under the 6 hour limit safely without injury. So that's the
Yeah.
goal.
There's a couple things. One, you said you will go out for a cause, and that's kind of where I started was, and I just why I'm bringing it up is I just saw this on LinkedIn. So when I was living in Pennsylvania, I was single, and I wanted to start getting in shape. I was out of shape. I was overweight. I was lifting weights, but I was like big. And I was like, I want to start running. And I think I've told this story a million times, but I joined, actually back up. No, no, no. I moved back to Boston after this. So I started running there.
Okay.
I moved back to Boston and I was like, I joined the Leukemia Lymphoma
Yeah.
Society team and training program.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw, but today on LinkedIn, they changed their name.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
it's
Okay.
called like the blood cancer group.
Okay.
So I think it kind
Makes
of makes
sense.
sense. Like,
For sure.
okay, leukemia, lymphoma. I don't think a lot of people that haven't been touched by cancer know what
Sure.
blood cancers are and
Sure.
all that kind of. So like leukemia, people are like, I don't even know what that is. So it makes sense. It kind of puts all the blood cancers into one group.
Sure.
But that's how I started running
Okay.
was for a cause. And then um, same thing. Every race I would do would be for raising money for a charity or something like that. And over time, I just kind of like, yeah, when I moved here, there was um, there was a bunch of stuff, but the lymphoma was in Des Moines,
Okay.
and I was like, I can't drive 2.5 hours to go run every week. But
Sure. Sure.
so,
Yeah, my one of the half marathons that I've run was raising money for Live Strong at the
oh
YMCA.
yeah, yeah,
So I've been an instructor of that program for many years and am also a cancer exercise specialist. So
okay,
early on in my career, I guess that was about 2010. I was hired to be the cancer exercise specialist for Unity Point Health Trinity Cancer Center in Moline, and actually was able to go out to the University of Northern Colorado to the Rocky Mountain Cancer Rehab Institute to obtain the training and the certification to come back and then bring that to not only people undergoing cancer
hmm
treatment, but those that maybe um, were in their survivorship years, just wanted to really stay active, that kind of thing. So that's been very meaningful over the years as well.
So
So
is Live Strong? Is that Lance's kind of like spin-off
Live
organization?
Strong at the YMCA is somewhat of that,
Hmm.
but that is a 12-week cancer exercise program that's free of charge. You definitely don't want the financial burden of a membership to stand in the way of someone who
Yeah,
needs to
yeah.
resume physical activity for decreasing severity of treatment related side effects and things like that. So it's a program that's been, at least locally, it's been at our YMCA since 2011, I believe. And anybody of any age that's had a cancer diagnosis can participate in it. And it's not about, um, you know, really demanding type
Yeah.
workouts. It's
Like,
focused on cardiovascular
hmm.
exercise, strength training, balance, and flexibility. Because a lot of times people's functioning really does get reduced as a result of their
Yeah.
treatments that they're undergoing or surgical procedures that they've had. So it's a really fantastic program.
Yeah. It's funny
So
because like I don't, until you talk to somebody or know somebody that's affected or touched by this, it's you don't even know sometimes the resources are
absolutely.
available. And I'll go back to like your
Yes.
job. Like I worked at Deere for 17 years, and I would say the amount of resources that were available 17 years ago to today are like, there's so
Absolutely.
many, and I feel like they're maybe underutilized in some ways,
Most
especially for like
ways.
men, like, hey, I'm not going to go ask for
Absolutely.
help, whatever.
Absolutely.
Um, the other thing I was going to mention was the why. I just saw, totally unrelated, that Brad is
Yeah,
leaving.
he's retiring.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Brad,
I didn't realize that
yeah,
he had been in the
that
YMCA
long.
association since the 70s.
Yeah.
I think 1976, which is when I was born.
Yeah.
Um, Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his daughter, Bria, and my daughter Erin, they played soccer together since they
Okay.
were like in BSA, little kids. And I think Bria's in college to play soccer now. My Erin's a freshman at Iowa. And
Okay.
then I have an older daughter, Trinity, who's a senior
Okay.
at Iowa.
Okay.
So
Go Hawkeyes.
yeah. But it's interesting to talk about the physical therapy, I'll call it, right? Because it's physical therapy for cancer patients or people going through
It's
treatment or
prehab, rehab.
yeah,
It's
okay.
helping folks kind of navigate the complexion of treatment related side effects that they might experience. Maybe they had radiation, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they had chemotherapy, or both,
Yeah.
and or surgery. And it's a lot of it though is psychosocial. It's the
Yeah.
psychosocial that I think honestly is the probably, if you were to interview many Live Strong at the YMCA participants, the thing that they take away most, even though their strength may have improved, their 6 minute walk test may have improved, things like that, but it's the friendships they've made,
Yeah.
and it's the hope they have, and
Yeah.
it's just the empowerment of I can still do things. I'm beyond, I'm bigger than my cancer diagnosis, basically.
So how does it happen where if I'm a how do you know about it? Like if you are going to an
Mhm.
oncologist here in this,
Yeah.
do you go and they say, "Hey, we recommend going here," or
Oftentimes they do know
they
about
do
it
know
because the program directors at the YMCA generally have a collaborative
connection? Yeah.
relationship with the providers. I know that when I used to be the group fitness director at the YMCA, and another colleague of mine took over that role after I left, and I know that she had a really tight working relationship with the oncologists in the area at the University of
Mm-hmm.
Iowa as well. And really, it's just word of mouth. I think you find that most of us know someone that has had
Mm-hmm.
cancer. I mean, I have many, many people, family and friends, that have been diagnosed. Um, a lot of great relationships with Gilda's Club.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, they're going to Gilda's Club perhaps for support and other services. So they might learn about it that way as well. So,
So for the people listening, how would they, if you didn't get connected and you didn't have this connection through the oncologist, or how would they get it? How would you recommend they find out or connect with you guys?
call
Through
the
the Y?
membership services desk at the YMCA.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Ask about it. They run, like I said, they're 12-week programs, multiple times throughout the year. And it's a small group, generally about 10 participants, male, female. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
the whole family, to my knowledge, this is still how it is. The whole family gets a membership to the YMCA to continue coming during their enrollment. And so the participants coming a couple of times a week
Yeah.
for those classes, those Live Strong at the YMCA classes, and they might have a support person that comes with them
Hmm. Yep.
oftentimes. I know in the past I've had spouses, I've had people with their best
And
friend
it's free
or
for
their.
them too.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah, and they participate as well. There's an assessment at the beginning, an assessment at the end, and then during the middle part of the program, if you will, they're working on strength, balance, flexibility, and cardiovascular exercise. So,
Yeah, it's funny. I listen to a ton of podcasts,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you know Dr. Peter Attia.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he talks about longevity.
Outlive. Yeah. His
And,
book.
you know,
Absolutely.
when I listened to the one when he was talking about being 85 years old and what do you want to do when you're 85, and how most people that don't practice balance, that's the first thing they lose. They could be losing sensation in their feet. And my
Sure.
older brother has that going on right now, which is crazy. He's only
Neuropathy.
58. But yeah, and how if you want to be in that kind of state at 85, you got to start today.
Oh, for
Right?
sure.
So that was my question was
It's
going to
not ever
be,
too
no,
late,
it's never too late,
but
without a doubt.
yes, it's going to help
Start
you
now.
by leaps and bounds.
But my question was more about the program itself. It's a 12, 11, or whatever,
12 weeks. Yeah.
12-week program, and then it's over, or do you keep going? Is there any kind of
There
like
are
follow up?
survivorship programs, yes.
Okay.
So, for instance, they have this same program at the Two Rivers YMCA in Moline
Okay.
and Rock Island. Their association is different than the YMCA of the Iowa Mississippi Valley, but they
Okay.
have the
Yeah.
same program. It's basically a evidence based, research based protocol. We use the same assessment principles. We use the same kind of modalities throughout the 12 weeks. And yes, they do have survivorship programs because, again, you don't want that to stop. That support has
Mm-hmm.
been built. A lot of times, survivors will create their own organic groups as offshoots of
Yeah.
their participation. But everybody gets a shirt, and you're part of kind of a club.
Now remind me, did you say you created it, or it was something that
The
the Y
YMCA,
created it?
yep, the
So
YMCA,
somebody,
yeah.
and what year was it again? 2011 or
We brought it here locally in
in
2011.
2011? Okay, so it's been going on for a long time.
Yes.
Wow. Um, no, now another question I have, maybe this is getting into too much detail about this, but I feel like it's an interesting subject.
Sure.
So let's just say you're diagnosed, are going through chemo or through radiation. Do the typical doctors involved today, oncologists, whoever, your primary care, like what was their opinion before this program? Meaning like, hey, so my mom had cancer, she passed away in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry.
yeah, and there was no time for her to do anything really. It
Sure.
was like
Sure. Very
quick.
quick.
But what was like say the mindset of the doctors, and why I brought up Lance earlier was
Mm-hmm.
because Lance had cancer and didn't know it, but he still was like the world's best bicyclist,
Mm-hmm.
and he kept training,
Mm-hmm.
and the training helped him kind of like live basically. But what was
Absolutely.
the philosophy of the doctors or today if you don't know about something like this physical activity in
Mm-hmm.
this program? Like, do they even
Well,
recommend
that
physical
that
therapy?
has changed
Okay.
quite a bit. I would say from the time that in 2010 when I went out to the Rocky Mountain Cancer Rehab Institute, certainly at that particular institution, they were all for it.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that that was nationwide
Mm-hmm.
the thought. Even in some of the promotional videos about Live Strong at the YMCA, they talk about cancer survivors are expected to experience diminished capacity, but that doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to just sit and
Right.
protect yourself and be in this bubble.
Yeah.
That is going to further decline you and
Right.
probably exacerbate the treatment related side effects that you're going to experience. You think of cancer related fatigue is an
Mm-hmm.
actual thing
Mm-hmm.
that can be measured, and exercise actually restores energy,
Yeah.
which is kind of counterintuitive. You would think, oh, you're tired,
Yeah.
sit down and rest. Well,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you should actually fit in some regular movement to
Mm-hmm.
help restore the energy. So I would say the tone now is much more supportive, and it's an evidence-based researched
Yeah.
protocol. So I think it's not just willy-nilly go to some gym,
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
a trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a personal trainer, and I know how to stay in my lane, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. I'm not the best youth athlete trainer. I'm much more the health seeker
Yep.
type trainer. And so you really want to almost like interview your trainers and make sure you vet your programs to make sure that you're doing something that's safe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I could see how there's probably obviously, and then there's also levels of the patients too, right?
Hmm.
So what condition they're in, how
Sure.
old they are.
And not
Uh,
everybody, even though there's a protocol that we follow with every person, but I'll give you an example. Back when I first began teaching it, there was a participant who was so deconditioned
mhm.
that they could not participate in the 6-minute walk test. Absolutely could not. Couldn't even ride. I don't know if you're familiar with like a new step. It's a seated
Yep.
recumbent style piece of equipment that you're basically stair stepping in a seated position. And this individual could go just minutes,
Yeah.
and or walk one lap very slowly around the track. But by the time
Hmm.
we built up that endurance over the 12 weeks, and really that person, all they wanted to do was go to the wedding reception and dance with the
Yeah.
family on the dance floor.
Hmm.
So it's really more about quality of life and being
Hmm.
able to help people resume the activities that bring them the most joy and that are the most important to them. I can't say that people come to that program thinking, well, I want to get into this program and I want to be at the gym
Yeah.
every
Yeah. Yeah.
day, or,
Right.
that's really not the mindset of the instructors nor the participants.
Yeah.
But definitely, I would say it's important to help people see the possibilities because there is some fear, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I doing too much?
Yeah.
Or should I be doing this? Or, so there is a bit of that as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, it's awesome to hear that because I can give you my personal experience too with my grandmother. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, she broke her hip and she was probably, I don't know, maybe it's so weird like how I look back and think that she was older than she really was just because people just for whatever reason 50 years ago were like they looked older
Sure,
than because I'm
sure.
57 and I'm like, but I remember there was a hospital in Salem, Mass, and it was like Spalding Rehab,
Okay.
and I just remember it was like it was out of a movie where it was someplace you just didn't want to go. Like it was
Okay.
a rehab facility, but I remember having to take her there because she had to do learn how to walk again and all this other
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But it was like the most depressing and dark and like
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous place. And I just remember that. And to hear now that there's stuff like this
Absolutely.
50 years later, it feels like
It's pretty impressive. My education, my college degrees are all in therapeutic recreation. So I worked for a number of years in inpatient settings like where your grandmother was at,
yeah,
where it was all of the rehab therapies, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and recreational therapy was part of that, which I think now that I think about it, I probably have thought about it before, but it's reminding me today that that foundation and knowledge really set me up to be well suited to be a Live Strong at the YMCA instructor and all of the other things that I've done in my career because I really saw the individual person. Every person has their story, right?
yeah,
Maybe someone loves square dancing or they
hmm
like taekwondo or they whatever it might be. And I always found it fascinating to try to help them in any way I could, to resume those
yeah,
activities because
hmm
that's what gets you up in the morning,
yeah.
right? If you have no purpose or nothing's bringing you joy or you're not feeling like you're making a difference, it's really kind of a drudgery.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen, it's funny, like, I don't know if you've seen these. I think I talk to some people that are in the fitness industry and talk about functional fitness
Hmm.
versus like just bodybuilding or getting
Sure.
stronger. I don't know if you've seen these, there's like these new, I don't know, they're on either TikTok or Instagram or some videos where they'll start by showing a woman and she starts doing like these crazy exercises at the gym and then they say and then it kind of like has music playing and it's a song like this thing going on and then all of a sudden it's because so she could lift her daughter out of her wheelchair and put her in the car and you're like
Sure.
okay that
Okay.
makes
Yeah,
sense going back
absolutely.
to the Peter Attia conversation where it's like what do you want to do
Right.
the rest of your life
Right.
do you want to just sit in your chair and watch
Right.
TV
Right.
or, and I think the other thing
Yeah.
I want to go back to again is the baseline. You mentioned the 6 minute walk test
Hmm.
because, like, I feel that maybe some of these people, like you said, some they probably never walked for 6 minutes in their life, right?
Right.
So, like, the baseline of all of them is
Right.
going to be like, where did you start to where do you go to? And that's what I like to talk about. And I talked about it with John Byrne. I
Mhm.
said, what I really have been digging into more recently, and I had this conversation with Phil, is Phil Young about running. Like his customer base is more of the couch to 5K or just
Yeah.
like go from not being able to run a mile to running a marathon, and it might be 3 years, but they did it.
Right.
Versus somebody that's the like the baseline delta, right? Like a baseline
Hmm.
was 0 to 100
Right.
versus somebody that ran in high school, ran in college, is running like 4 45-minute miles and now they're running 444s.
Right.
Like there's that much movement
Yeah.
versus this much movement.
So I will tell you on that note, in 2013, I ran the half marathon with a lymphoma survivor. She was in her 20s, I believe,
Oh
at the
wow.
time, and she had never run a 5K. And we ran the half marathon together.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, and she was a Live Strong at the YMCA participant. We really model it on the rate of perceived exertion. So you might be able to walk 6 minutes and be breathing completely normally. But my participant that couldn't even
Yeah.
do the walk test would have been huffing and puffing, heart rate was high. It wasn't safe to continue, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So, the I've always said, be the tortoise. The slow and steady wins the race. Be consistent over time. It's the accumulated sum of small daily disciplines that really
Yeah.
makes the difference. Um, and plus, it's more fun that way.
Yeah.
I think, when you're doing things you enjoy versus this is so hard, I hate it. What's the likelihood you're
Yeah.
probably going to continue that? If it's, causing pain and discomfort, things like that. I just actually last night had a conversation with my class. I teach Les Mills body pump at the YMCA, and I was chatting with the folks after the bicep track, which our biceps are burning. We did 5 minutes of biceps, and I said, this is helping you when you go to Hy-Vee and you're at the back of the store, you didn't think you needed a cart,
Right.
but
Now
now
you
your
do.
hands are full
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to get to the front to the cashier
Yeah.
without a cart
Yeah.
because of this work you're doing today. So,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of funny.
It is. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I know I have a friend, Ken Rideout, he he talks about it's not selfish to work on yourself, even when you have kids and a job and all that, but you have to
Right?
take care of yourself. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm really optimistic about the new kind of health movement in the country with Bobby
Absolutely.
Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
and politics aside, whatever, it doesn't matter if you're pro health, you're pro health. But to bring back like the presidential fitness test, and Phil and I
Yes.
talked about it, I think Brian talked like that to me.
My patch
Yeah,
when I was a
exactly.
kid.
And you sit there and you think about why did that go away?
I know.
You know? But
Yeah.
now it's back, I hope.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like there's
absolutely.
a lot of research in the brain health, health, gut
Mhm.
health to brain, and but physical moving around
You bet.
activity to your brain.
You bet.
I also heard, and it was probably on either Huberman or Tia. They had a person on that talked about, and I didn't know this, and it's totally unrelated to what we're talking about, but I just thought of it. But it was interesting because people that lose their hearing, they're
Mhm.
more susceptible to dementia.
Okay. I
Yeah,
didn't realize that. Hmm.
yeah. I don't know. I heard that and I thought, man, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, but
There definitely is more, much more in the social media world, in just literature about physical activity these days on strength training for women in menopause, people in perimenopause, Alzheimer's. I mean, Dr. Perlmutter, I know, was talking about strength training and just different. There just seems to be more of a appetite for
hmm,
that right now, which is wonderful.
yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah, and I think I
very
didn't know.
encouraging.
I mean, I kind of knew, but it wasn't really stated until I heard somebody say, and it was a running coach, but there's a difference between, you know, bodybuilding, building muscle, and strength training. And you're
Right.
like, oh, click. Like that to me, when I was playing football when I was young in high school and in college, we were all just trying to get bigger and stronger.
Mm.
And we were doing bodybuilding stuff instead of like functional movements to get
Sure.
stronger.
Sure.
Like, okay, yeah, bench press 500 pounds. I mean, whatever, but like squats and getting
Hmm.
stronger, low reps,
Right. Right.
and making it. not an hour long workout, but maybe 30 minutes versus, man, I don't want to be at the gym for an hour and a
Hmm.
half bodybuilding.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in infusing movement in your day. People will say they don't have time,
Yeah.
whether that's a perceived lack of time. I mean, we all have the 24 hours in a day, right? How we're choosing to spend it. But I do think it's empowering knowing that you can infuse movement in your day. I'm fortunate to live close to the bike path and I'm
Hmm.
on it as often as I can be. But I don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And it's like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't have an hour. I
Yeah.
have 10 minutes or I have
Yeah.
7 minutes. Well, if I do 7 minutes 8 times a day, you know,
Yeah.
there you go.
Right.
You've got all your step count
Yeah.
in. So there's lots of ways to tackle it
Yeah.
in smaller bite-sized chunks to
Yeah.
succeed. So,
Yeah.
and again, just doing it consistently.
I remember hearing, and I was a big proponent of this when I was at Deer, standing versus
Hmm.
sitting at
Yeah.
my desk, and I would stand, and then it became like, okay, hey John, do you want to try this walking
Yeah.
treadmill at work? And I was like, well, not really. I mean, I think it would be great, but let someone else try it.
Sure.
And so now I think they have standing
Yeah.
workstations that are
The walking
treadmills.
pads. Yep.
Yeah,
I own one of those.
yeah,
Yep. I work remotely, so I have a standing desk and I have a walking pad. I can't say that I use it a ton unless I'm on a Teams meeting and I don't have to be physically
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
keep
yeah,
myself
yeah, yeah,
safe and
yeah,
upright. But yeah, it's just there's so many ways to incorporate movement in your day. It was funny. A couple weeks ago, I thought, I'm brewing my coffee. Anytime I'm standing doing something, waiting for the microwave, waiting for water to boil on the stove, waiting for the coffee to brew. I'm like, I wonder how many squats I can
yeah.
do while the coffee's brewing. Well, lo and behold, I can do 50.
There you go.
So
Yeah, right.
how many calf raises can you do
That's
while
what
you're
I do.
brushing your
The
teeth?
calf raises. Yeah, yeah,
So there's a lot of fun in that.
yeah.
So
I think there's a lesson that a lot of people that run or just work out and everything is that, advice is free and it's you can take it or leave it from anybody, right?
right.
And I just think that there are a lot of people that run that don't do all the stuff that they should be doing
Hmm.
because they think that it's going to affect their running. And I was
Hmm.
one of those people for a while.
Okay.
And then I got hurt. And once you get hurt, then it's like, okay,
Mhm.
now I have to do rehab.
Right.
And what's the rehab like? Well, are you going to continue to do the rehab? And I did get hurt 2 years ago. I got hurt. I hurt my foot and it I was in a boot for like 6 weeks, but then I went to physical therapy. And I didn't know how weak I was, like
Mm.
standing on one foot to
Oh,
try to do, like, I used to do calf raises, but double calf raise, not one foot.
yeah.
So, like, I learned how to do
Yeah,
standing on one
unilateral.
foot,
Hmm.
and then the physical therapist wanted me to do 30 reps, 1 foot, but balance.
Sure.
That was the goal. And I'm like, I mean, I could barely do one at the
Sure.
beginning.
Sure.
And I just started doing
Yeah.
that, standing on one foot for 30 seconds. And again, it all leads back to the first conversation about longevity, right? What do you want to,
Hmm.
do you want to be able to walk when you're 85 or
Right.
90,
Right. Or getting down and
The
up off the
stairs, getting
floor,
up and
or
down.
gardening,
Yeah.
or just different things. What does that activity require?
Yeah.
Do you have the capacity, endurance wise, cardiovascularly, muscularly, balance, flexibility? I mean,
Yeah.
nothing will derail your program quicker than getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. I was a gymnast, so I have really great flexibility. I have my whole life. However, as I've aged, I've noticed that that has declined because I haven't focused on it as
Yeah.
much. And when you're strength training all the time, you're tightening, tightening, tightening. You got to
Yeah.
counteract that with some flexibility work.
Yeah.
And, you think about putting your seatbelt on. What type of flexibility does that
Yeah.
require? You can
Yeah.
tweak your back very
Oh,
easily
yeah.
putting your seatbelt on.
Sneezing.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So it's wise to make sure that you do have a well balanced,
Yeah.
kind of a comprehensive program in
Yeah.
place.
I got a
So,
quick story. So 2 weeks ago, let me think, not even 2 weeks ago, because I just raced on Saturday at Scott
okay.
County
Yeah, I
Park,
saw that.
the 10 miler.
Yes.
And I did it last year, but so it was the week before, and my day to lift, I've only been lifting twice a week. and I do like the same kind of muscle groups, just the strength.
Mm-hmm.
No more of this other stuff,
Okay.
just all strength, which is
Sure.
usually the deadlifts and the trap bar or squats
Okay.
on like a ramp.
Okay. Yep.
So I said, man, Tuesday was my day. I'm like, I will have the race on Saturday. I could probably skip it, but no, you know what? I've been feeling pretty good about it, so I'm just gonna go do it. Well, the second or third set, I did something where I tweaked my back so bad that
Oh.
I was like, I couldn't eat. I had to go, I had to leave the gym. So Tuesday, I came home and I have a sauna over there. I was in the
Oh,
sauna for like an
excellent.
hour. Okay. And I was like, I can't even walk. Never mind. I'm thinking I'm going to run on Saturday. But I have in my garage one of those teeter inversion
Oh,
tables. And I knew it wasn't really like, I've had these hip problems for a long time. My
okay.
hip flexors are really tight,
Okay.
but I've been
Yep.
doing stuff to
Yep.
help. But long story, so I get in that teeter thing probably like 10 times that day to just kind of shock
Yes.
my spine back. And
Yeah.
I have lumbar scoliosis
Okay.
too.
All
So it's
right.
really like this, like on my
Okay.
L4 or 5 or down there.
Okay.
But it was feeling good. And then I did the sauna on Wednesday. I didn't run. And then Thursday came around and I did the sauna all day. And like I was obsessive about it. I just would do the teetering thing. And so then Saturday comes around and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to even run this.
Sure.
Never mind run a trail race and try to race.
For that distance
Yeah.
too.
But
Mhm.
the summary of it all is that I feel like why I was able to do it was the last 10 years of me doing all the stuff
Sure.
leading up to getting
Oh,
through
yes.
an injury pretty quick
Yes.
because I was doing
You
all this.
rebounded
Yeah.
much quicker
Yeah.
than
If it
a
was
person who hadn't
right.
had that
So I guess
foundation
the
built.
the
Yeah.
theme again is going back to this conversation about physical therapy for people that are going through cancer and all that is that, you know, that baseline, if you were already doing it, you're going to be ahead of the game, right?
Sure. Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So we can switch to the most important thing that you want to talk about, I
Sure.
think, which I didn't know anything about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how you want
So, I kind of recently have been doing a number of just learning more about spiritual gifts and what makes Stacia Carroll tick.
to. Mm-hmm.
Are there themes in my life? Why do I do what I do as opposed to someone else, right? Because I don't know if you know another living organ donor. It's more common to know probably a living kidney donor than a
Yeah.
liver donor.
Yeah.
um,
Agreed.
but just was kind of looking back on my life, and certainly I've been uh, driven towards vocations of recreational therapy and fitness, really trying to recognize that there's a lot of suffering going on in the world, people suffering in mind, body, spirit in a variety of ways, and I just seem to have a very keen awareness of when that's happening and a desire to do something about it. So I would say, compassion is really woven through my life and all the things I've said yes to, committees I've been on, causes I've supported,
Mm-hmm.
jobs I've had, things like that. And really, how the living organ donation journey began was back in 1998 with the birth of our daughter, Lauren, when Dr. Omar came into our lives. He was actually our family pediatrician, as he cared for many children and families in our area. And on May 4th of 2022, I was laying on my couch and watching a show with my husband, and I'm on Facebook just kind of mindlessly scrolling, and I see that the Omar children had posted a message on Facebook, indicating that Dr. Omar had a type of liver cancer, and the best chance for his survival would be for him to have a liver transplant. So they were looking for a living donor. I've been a registered organ donor since I got my
Yeah.
license. I mean, I'm a blood donor. I've,
Yeah.
I've always done those types of things, but really had no awareness about living organ donation. I was also on the registry for the Be the Match for bone marrow, had never been contacted about that. And literally that day, as I'm laying there looking at the message, I replied and I
Mhm.
said I could get tested to
Yeah.
see if I would be a match.
That's yeah.
And I mean, I didn't even say it out loud. I just kind of responded
Hmm.
and I at the time had no idea what I was even saying yes to
Yeah. Right.
truly. And after that, got in communication with one of Dr. Omar's daughters, Lubna. She was the one that I communicated most consistently with. So that was in May. And kind of the process is he was a patient at Mayo Clinic in Rochester. So part of their process is to have interested
Mm.
candidates fill out kind of a general health questionnaire.
Yeah.
Are you of the right age that you
Hmm.
need to be? Are you the right blood type? I'm an O negative blood type, so I'm a universal donor. So that typically is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Are you in good health? That kind of thing. So I filled that out. And really, at that point, they were just collecting names of people and having, leading those individuals to fill out the questionnaire. So fast forward to, well, it probably was a few months after that. I get a notification from Mayo Clinic. Hey, we understand that you're interested in being evaluated as a potential donor for Dr. Omar, but right now we're considering another person. So they only evaluate one person at a time.
Yep.
Until that person can no longer
Get
proceed with the
vetted out or whatever. Yeah.
process, then they'll contact you back. So I was like, yeah, please contact me back if something changes. So they did. And in November of 2022, I traveled to Rochester for the donor evaluation, which is it's only supposed to be a couple days. Ended up kind of being a little lengthier
Yeah.
because of some things that they discovered. So I went through that whole process. My mom accompanied me for that. And I mean, it's literally full
Hmm.
comprehensive blood work, imaging, um, psychiatric evaluation.
Wow.
You have a living donor advocate, you have a social worker, dietitian, spiritual care. It's looking at everything because they really want to make sure that as the donor, it's going to be a good outcome for both you and the recipient. And the whole way in the whole process, you are constantly told, if at any time you decide that you don't want to proceed, no questions asked, you just let us know that you are.
And does the patient know that you're involved at this point?
So, yes,
Only because you knew
only
them.
because I knew him.
Right.
So, because I was at the time going the directed donation route, I was communicating
Got it.
with the family. So, unfortunately, during the testing, they discovered that I was severely anemic. So they were concerned maybe you have some internal bleeding that we haven't
Hmm.
identified. So they sent me back home and I had to have a colonoscopy and an endoscopy here locally to rule out any of that, which they ruled it out. It was just because of my very frequent blood donations. So I was
Yeah.
put on a hiatus from that. Um, so got the blood where it needed to be, and basically we're planning to move forward. When sadly, 4 days after that testing was done, Dr. Omar passed away.
Ugh.
And so
Hmm.
that was just crushing
Yeah.
news. I guess thinking about it now, I knew he was ill,
Right.
right? He needed a liver transplant
Yeah.
to live, but I just never suspected that that could happen. I mean,
Right.
so I was really kind of shocked, honestly, at that point and not sure what that meant. Um, but my nurse at Rochester contacted me a couple days later and just said, in light of the circumstances, you know, you can certainly back out and move on with your life. And at that point, I didn't even know I was a match for Dr. Ohm. So
Right.
I had only completed the testing. I
Yeah.
still had to be completely evaluated by Mayo Clinic to determine that I was actually an approved living donor for
Right.
their program. Which that approval came on December 9th. So it was after his death. And when the nurse contacted me, I just thought, I feel like this is what Dr. Omar would want. I said, just because I wasn't able to be his donor doesn't
Hmm.
mean there aren't 100,000 people
Yeah.
waiting every day on the transplant list,
Is
waiting
that the
for
real
their.
number?
That is the real number. Yeah, over 100,000. There's several thousand. I want to say it's maybe 7 or 8,000 Iowans. So I thought someone else has a need.
Yeah.
So December 9th, they approved me as a donor, and we were at that point proceeding full steam ahead with waiting for them, for Mayo Clinic, to alert me that they had found a match, which I was on vacation with my family at the time. And I got a call on March 10th of 2023 that they found my perfect match. Um, and I don't believe at that time they don't tell me anything. No gender, no
Yeah.
name, no nothing. It's an altruistic, non-directed donation at that point. So it does change things with regards to how things are handled financially, because that's a question I get asked a lot. Because people are fascinated about the organ donation, but they're like, well, I could never do that because I could never afford to do that, or they don't
To be the recipient?
understand either the
Either.
donor or the recipient. So, as the donor, all of the costs are paid out of the recipient's health insurance. So, I didn't have any out of pocket costs to be the donor.
So when you went the first time for the tests and they paid for your hotel or
That
whatever
was the
that.
family paying for that.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, the
because
family. I
it was
gotcha.
directed
I
at
gotcha.
that
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
When
Okay.
I had other expenses
Yeah.
later on with my eventual recipient, that is handled through other funds. So there's actually an organization or a fund called the National Living Donor Assistance Center. So I actually was able to get expenses reimbursed. I got lost wages, different things that
Hmm.
weren't paid by my short term disability through my
Yeah.
employer. And then there's also, as an Iowan, you may, or people may have contributed to this, and it's the Anatomical Gift
Hmm.
Fund. So when you go renew your license,
Yeah.
they ask if you would like to donate to that.
Oh.
And so
Hmm.
those funds are then used for Iowans who become donors. So it's pretty
So you
cool.
mentioned one thing I just want to ask you, and I know you
Sure.
deal with benefits, but so you said that the patient's insurance should cover this, but
Yes.
like anything, like car insurance, if you don't have this, it's not covered. Like in homeowners insurance, well, it's not covered by it. Our typical insurance policies do the typical United Healthcare, whoever, cover
Yes.
transplant
Yes.
and that kind of piece to it? They do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the only things that they did not cover, like it wasn't billed through insurance, would have been my wages when I was off work for 6 weeks recovering. I had a hospital indemnity policy, so that paid me because I had that for my hospitalization.
Okay.
Um, and so between short-term disability, hospital indemnity insurance, and these anatomical gift fund
Yeah.
and the National Living Donor Assistance Center, I got all my expenses, lodging, food, gas, those types of
Hmm.
things reimbursed. But all of the treatments I had to, I was in the ICU for a day. I was in the transplant unit for 6 days. Um, all that goes with that, with the procedure, with the medications, with the testing and follow up appointments, things like that, all of that is billed through the
Got
recipient's
it.
insurance. So, we had the first kind of shocking experience,
Hmm.
obviously, of not being able to donate to the original intended recipient. And we move forward. I get the call of the match on March 10th, and the surgery was originally scheduled for April 21st of 2023.
It's like a
So
month.
just a month and a
Yeah.
half after. And so I submitted short-term disability. I was off work. I traveled to Rochester. There's a whole day of testing the day before, which, unbeknownst to me at the time, I actually saw my recipient
Oh.
in the doctor's office where they see both the recipient and the donor on the same day, the day before the surgery. I didn't know she was
Yeah.
my recipient. I
Right.
just saw a woman who looked like she had liver disease.
Yeah.
She was very jaundiced and very frail. And I overheard her say her name when she checked in at the front desk. And so I was like, I wonder if that could
Yeah.
be my recipient. Lo and behold, it was. Um, and so the next day we get up. My husband's ready to take me to the Methodist campus at Rochester Mayo Clinic. And I get a call at 5:30 a.m. from my surgeon saying, we cannot do the surgery today. Your recipient has an infection in her blood. So
Hmm.
it was just that sinking feeling.
Yeah.
And honestly, my husband and I were just stunned. We actually went to the lobby of the hotel and just didn't even talk, just didn't have any words for because you psych yourself
Oh,
up, right? You're
absolutely. Yeah.
getting prepared. And
Yeah.
and kind of one of the pieces of this, because I get asked a lot, weren't you afraid? Were you ever afraid? And I never was afraid. I never had any fear. I believe that truly the Holy Spirit was just helping guide me forward. I didn't have any hesitation whatsoever. However, there are risks.
Yeah.
My husband had to hear from the surgeon the day before that, Mr. Carroll, there's a risk of 1 in 300 chances that your wife will die from this
Yeah.
procedure.
Surgery. Yeah.
That is the statistic right now for the Mayo Clinic transplant program for living liver donation. And so my husband's very humorous and he tried to kind of joke about, are you missing a zero there, doc? Is it 1 in 3,000? And no, it's 1 in 300.
Mm.
They have had a death in the history of their program. But we are very faith-filled people that really influences how we live our lives. And we really felt I was in fabulous shape, no prescription drugs, very healthy lifestyle. So anyhow, we went forward with it. So after getting the news, surgery can't be done, I actually had a call with a journalist with one of the news stations who had been following my story. And they said, don't you think this is a sign? And I said, well, I don't believe in that. Um, but I just, I felt like I had to persevere. I'm a very persevering, a lot of fortitude,
Yeah.
grit kind of person. And so I came home, I went back to work and got a call from my nurse and she said, what are you thinking? And I was most heartbroken for Patty, my recipient, now that I know her name, because I thought, what must she be thinking? Her life is on the line.
Yeah.
Like she is needing this to live. If if your kidneys fail, you can go on dialysis. It is not ideal at
Hmm.
all. Um, but your liver fails, you can't do
Yeah.
without it.
Right.
And so I just thought, I wonder what she's thinking. I wonder if she's thinking that I'm going to just back out. And because truly, there was kind of a timeline. Like, if this can't happen by this time, our daughter was getting married. My
Oh,
youngest
yeah.
son was a senior in high school, football player.
Yeah.
There were just so many things going on in our family that I'm like, to be realistic, if this can't be done by June, I need to.
Because you're gonna, after that happens, you're out for this longer period, right?
Yes.
So you have to
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
get it, right?
So it was like,
Yeah.
what's the end date of
Yeah.
you, if this doesn't happen by this time, when you
Yeah.
need to, part
Right.
ways?
Right.
So I said June. If it can't happen by June, I need to back out just because I need to be there for my son's senior
Yeah.
year, all this stuff. Well, lo and behold, it was rescheduled for May 17th. So that was when the surgery
And
happened.
did she remain in the hospital that whole time?
Not
Because
the
she had an
whole time.
infection, so
Not
they
the whole
send her
time.
home.
Yeah, I mean, and she doesn't live in Rochester. I mean, the thing is that people that go to Mayo Clinic
Yeah,
oftentimes
they're
aren't
from
local.
right.
So yeah, so she got healed from the infection, had some recovery time, and believe it or not, I saw her again on the day before our actual surgery, and it was the same woman that a month ago was in a wheelchair complaining about being super cold, looked frail, shivering, jaundiced. And I mean, a month did her very well. She was much stronger. She was walking on her own power. Um, and so at the time, I didn't know she was my recipient, but I just happened to see the same
Yeah,
woman.
right.
And so, yeah, so the surgery was a success. I had zero complications. It,
So I know I got a million questions, and I don't want to
yeah,
interrupt you, but
please,
it's
please.
just like because I was fascinated to know that that the some of your organs like they rejuvenate and some
The only
don't.
one that does is the liver.
Okay.
Yeah, so the liver regenerates.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, I've named my left lobe Laverne. And so basically, what happened is they took the diseased liver out of Patty.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the operating room at the same time I am.
Same room,
No, different
different
room,
rooms. Okay.
different surgical teams.
Okay.
Okay. So and I don't know the order of operations in terms of like who do they open up
Yeah, yeah,
first,
yeah.
that kind of thing. But basically, through all the imaging and everything, they determined I'm a suitable match for her, right?
And now you full under.
Yes, I'm full. Oh, yeah. And it's
Okay.
a complete. So, in comparison, because people oftentimes think, oh, well, maybe they're more familiar with kidney transplant, which is a laparoscopic
That's what I
procedure.
was going to ask you. Is it like
This
scoped or this
is
is
this
open up,
is full
cut open?
abdominal
Yeah.
from sternum to belly button. So they remove, I don't know how they do it. It's fascinating to me. I've learned so much about the liver. I could talk about it all day. And in fact, the father of liver transplantation is Dr. Thomas Starzl, who's from Iowa.
Oh wow.
He's from Lamar's, Iowa, where
Huh.
Blue Bunny ice cream was founded. So anyhow, they remove the left lobe, which is about 13 ounces of the total liver. They transplant that into Patty, along with, I was told after the fact, some of my bile ducts.
Got it.
They also, for me, had to remove my gallbladder because the gallbladder sits in front of the liver. So your gallbladder stores the bile,
Yep.
right? So that changes things. I mean, people ask me, are you back to 100%? And
Yeah.
yes, the liver, my remaining right lobe, regenerated back to the size the body needed it to be. Patty's left lobe regenerated back to the size her body needs it to be, and we all carry on. And it happens very quickly within weeks. A bulk of the regrowth has happened. So it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, and, it's even more fascinating learning what your liver does for your body. It's
I don't think a lot of
hundreds,
people know any of
hundreds
that.
of things. It's a
Yeah.
football shaped,
Yeah.
4 pounds right side of your abdomen. But when asked the question, how do you feel now? We're going on, it'll be 3 years. This coming May of 2026 will be 3 years. And I would say I'm 95% back to before. I think there are the things I'm currently experiencing, I think are things I'm going to just continue to experience. And I just kind of offer it up and I'm like, it's a small inconvenience for me to have given the gift of life to someone else.
Yeah.
Um, but it's mainly like digestive
Okay.
things. And I have, in working with amputees, you hear them talk about phantom
Yeah,
pain.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I have like a sensation under my rib on my right side that just kind of alerts me every day. Not pain, it's just a sensation.
Like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So that's really the only major things. I recovered quickly. I was back to, I think, July 1st. So May 17th, July 1st, I was able to go back to working out. I was walking all the time as much as I could. In fact, I earned a Methodist Mile
Mhm.
t shirt while in the hospital. by making laps around the nurse's
Mhm.
station.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so
Huh. I'm fascinated with biology. I was at one point in my career, I thought I wanted to be in that field.
okay.
I had what it was is I had this really great biology teacher in college, Dr. Barklow at Framingham State, and
Okay.
he was a more of like um, animal biology, but more
Okay.
he wrote books and did recordings on the loon bird. So a loon that make you know a
Cool.
loon on like a lake or whatever that noise.
Sure.
He was a like a almost like an animal communications specialist guy,
Okay.
and he traveled all over the world and everything like that. But that got me into the biology. But I knew like I took all the classes,
Hmm.
but I think it was chemistry that knocked me out of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
but I mean, I remember
Freaks a
having to
lot of people
learn
out.
respiration and the
Sure.
Krebs cycle and the
Yeah.
ATP. I'm like, I knew all that. I had the
Yeah.
diagrams and everything, and I was just fascinated by it. So, like, my question has to do with when you talk about removing part of your liver, and then it was cancerous.
It was not,
It was
she
so
told me no. She
okay.
told
So
me it was liver disease,
liver disease,
whatever
right?
that means. I mean, there's non-alcoholic fatty liver
Yeah.
disease.
So you did.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So the question I have, so like they take the piece out and then like I'm just thinking, okay, here it is. It's like a football, like you said, and
Hmm.
there's like,
Yep.
okay, they cut this part off and that's the bad part. Like it wasn't the whole thing. Like it just
Right.
seems weird. And
I
then how do you stitch it and it starts to work? I mean, it's amazing to think about.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Charles Rosen and Dr. Timuchin Tanner were my surgeons. And I remember talking to Dr. Rosen because he started the transplant program at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And he said when he first started, he was the transplant surgeon for both the donor and the
Oh,
recipient.
so he
So
would
he would
just,
move
yeah,
between rooms. And now they have their own surgical teams, their own anesthesia teams for both the donor and the recipient. So it is truly fascinating. I'm constantly reading books. A great one that I discovered is called From Life to Death: Notes from a Transplant Surgeon. Fantastic book. I've read all about Mayo Clinic. That's a fascinating place. I'd never been to Mayo Clinic prior to that experience, and I just love it there.
yeah,
It's an amazing place, amazing teams and people that care for the whole person.
yeah.
One of the things that I'm passionate about is food is medicine, right? Food, if
Or
you have
poison.
good nutrition, that
Yeah,
can really help with the
yeah,
healing process. And they really wholeheartedly believe that at Mayo Clinic. I never ate so well. I loved my opportunities to order my food when I was in the hospital. And I had never, honestly, other than two C-sections, I'd never had any other operations. So I really went into it not fully knowing what to expect. And that probably shocked me the most was how hard it hit me.
yeah.
It was like being hit by a Mack truck. When they do that procedure and they do the vertical incision from kind of your sternum to your belly button, they have to mechanically retract the ribs in order to access
Yeah,
the organ.
yeah,
And when the team rounded on me the next day, they were like, "How's your pain?"
yeah,
And I was like, every breath I take is excruciating.
yeah.
And then they told me, well, this is what we have to do when we're accessing the liver. And so that made a ton of sense. Some of the other surprising things were your how it was explained to me was your liver is responsible for so many mechanisms within hundreds of mechanisms within your body that because they disturbed it and took part of it, it was kind of like I went through night sweats. I mean, I just had a lot almost like hormonally going on
Yeah.
where it was radical.
Mm,
Things I had never experienced before. Glad
yeah.
that those subsided after a short time. But just, I think about people that undergo any type of surgical procedure,
Yeah.
open heart or
Yeah.
anything, it's like,
Yeah.
holy cow, I'm in great shape
Yeah.
and I was struggling,
Yeah.
to get out of bed
Yeah.
and sit up and roll over.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was very, very difficult.
Yeah, I've got a couple of stories that I want to share. So one, um, I was like scared to death I broke my thumb and I had to have
Okay.
surgery. And the doctor told me, and I was like probably 24 years old. And it was like skier's thumb it was called. I didn't do it
Okay.
skiing, but I did it playing
Okay.
flag football and it like
Oh.
bent backwards and it was like he said, "Hey, I was living in Connecticut. He's like, if you don't have that operated on now, you're never gonna be able to use your thumb." I was like,
Oh.
"Oh." But I was scared to death of
Okay.
going under. I didn't want to go under.
Okay.
So he said, "Well, we can do it and we'll do a block, a nerve
Oh,
block."
sure.
And I was like, "All right, cool, let's do that," because I'm not taking anesthesia.
Okay.
So they do this thing where they literally like they wrapped like a PT band
Okay.
rubber like
Yeah.
around your arm and they squeeze all the blood out of your arm
Oh.
and then they block it from under your armpit.
Okay.
So my arm was like this or
Okay.
whatever. And I mean, you could have hit it with a hammer and I couldn't feel
Yeah,
anything. It
sure.
was just the weirdest
Good.
thing. It's just,
Yeah.
but that's nothing, no local, nothing.
Okay.
So I watched them do the surgery and it was kind of wild. I think they gave me like a mild sedative type
Okay.
thing and I watched them stitch it up and everything. It was kind of cool. So I can understand being, like you said in the beginning, about being scared,
Yeah.
right? And I have another story about being scared, and then the 1 in 300, because I'm wondering if that's the stats for a transplant, what are the stats for just general surgery?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I
probably
don't
higher,
know.
right?
I would think. I mean, it's 1 in 10,000 risk of death for kidney transplant, one in
Okay.
300 for liver. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
but I don't know the general surgery
yeah,
stats.
we had a friend, I say we, I don't know why, but a friend, his name was David Clark and he was a runner, but
Okay.
he was this guy that he wrote 2 books and super awesome guy, like the nicest guy in the world. And I met him through a friend. And anyway, he went in for back surgery
Okay.
and this was during COVID. So it was probably like 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his back that was preventing him from running. And this guy was an amazing runner. Like he went from 300 pounds to like ultra runner,
Okay.
and has done like incredible races and all this stuff. He had the world record for the 48 hours on a treadmill. I mean, he was just like
Oh,
tip top shape, right?
okay.
But he went in for routine back surgery, which was like a discectomy or a disc something,
Mm-hmm.
and complications, went
Mm-hmm.
septic. They tried to, and he passed away. I mean, it was like wow, you know?
Wow.
So I can understand that people would be scared.
Right.
So my question is that one, how do you get on this donor list?
Mm-hmm.
And then, get you got over the fear through faith, I
Faith.
believe, right? It's kind of
Yeah, and I think truly it was kind of a saving grace for, I believe that my kids were more scared than
oh yeah.
maybe they showed me. I definitely know my husband was scared.
Yeah.
But I think it helped them seeing how confident I was, and I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
So being that I wasn't nervous, anxious, saying anything that would lead them to believe that I was afraid, put them at ease. Um, and I think, looking back now or getting questions about, well, how does this even come to be? Because most people are probably going to go through their lives hopefully being a registered organ donor so that when they die,
Yeah.
organs, eye, tissue, organs can be used to
Hmm.
help others. Um, the living donor part is unique. I'm constantly trying to not only share my story, I
Hmm.
wasn't seeking this out. Um, I had no idea that living organ donation was even possible until literally learning about it on May 4th of 2022. And but now that I know about it, I've gone
Hmm.
through this experience, I'm meeting many, many more people who have either been the recipient of a donor, maybe a deceased donor, maybe a living donor. A couple great friends that I've made in the area. Lori McFate,
Oh
she's
yeah.
a bone marrow
Yeah.
transplant recipient, and she's, I think, probably nearing like 30 years since her transplant. So, and living a very active lifestyle. And then
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you have ever met Melissa Nelson.
I don't
She's
think
also
so.
a runner, but she was a type 1 diabetic and was able to receive a pancreas
Oh, wow.
from a deceased donor, and now no longer has type 1 diabetes. So it's just incredible. This experience has just allowed me to meet so many
Mhm.
amazing people. So the world of transplant is small, but I think I'm doing whatever I can through the avenues,
Yeah.
talking to you today, through my social media networks to raise
Awareness.
awareness.
Absolutely.
Because you just never know.
Right.
Liver disease, kidney disease, those are all on the rise. I mean, even obesity leading to non alcoholic fatty liver disease. There's just more people
Yeah.
needing transplants, sadly. And so it might be, it might be a friend or a family member. Um, for any one of us in the future that has this type of a need. So I just want people to know. I
Yeah.
want them to know that it's possible that you can successfully be a donor and live a full life.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been very emotional too. Patty, who I was able to prior to the procedure, we were able to sign authorizations to share our contact with
Okay.
information with one another. And so we did that, but they make a practice not to distribute that to the donor and the recipient immediately. They kind of allow
Well, yeah.
you to get home
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
recover, and they want to
Yep.
make sure that um, hopefully that the recipient recovers well
Yeah.
before that information is shared. And so I actually never communicated with my recipient until the eve of our 1 year anniversary. And
Oh, wow.
she emailed me.
Oh, wow. And that's
Um,
just recent, right? Like in
so,
the
well,
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah. I mean,
a year and a half
relatively
ago.
recent.
Yeah. So, relatively recent. And we've only communicated via text message or email. I've never talked to her on the phone yet. I hope to. I have a picture of her. Um, she was a 63-year-old woman at the time, so she's celebrated 3 more birthdays since then. Last year on her birthday, she sent me a bouquet of
Pretty
flowers
cool.
and thanked me
Mm.
for giving her another day to celebrate.
Yeah.
But she's married with 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren, and so it's thinking about all that we all experience with our own families and friends in a 3 year period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yep.
a lot of joy
Life.
that a
Yeah.
person experiences.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. It's pretty cool. It's it's funny how you say, I feel like I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would want to know or if it's better to know and kind of become friends with them or something. I don't know.
Well, and one of the things that I don't know if it was the donor advocate or the social worker or maybe my nurse that talked about, everybody processes this differently and kind of in their own time, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes recipients may feel kind of unworthy of the gift. Um, and I don't know the reason she had liver disease, but I
Right.
know that there are folks that need liver transplants that maybe it's an alcohol related disease. Um, and I never looked at it. I mean, I never was choosing to move forward or not based
I
upon
get it. Yeah.
judging
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else's lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I would hope that that would never be a reason that a recipient would be apprehensive to communicate with their donor. Throughout this process, and I think every state has their own donor network,
Hmm.
but Iowa Donor Network is headquartered in North Liberty,
Okay.
Iowa. They have a branch in Des Moines as well. And I've become very acquainted with them. I'm a volunteer for Iowa Donor Network. I'm part of Team Iowa and have met numerous donors and recipients. One other question that gets asked a lot is, can you be a donor again?
Yeah.
And there are team members on Team Iowa who have been liver donors and kidney donors. My husband has said, no more
Yeah.
organs
Right.
for me
Yeah.
until I'm deceased, and then they
Yeah.
can take what they need and want. But so it is possible. You couldn't donate your liver again.
No.
Even though it regenerates, you
Yeah.
can't be a liver donor twice as a
Yeah, you
living.
did your job.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
It's funny, like I think the other thing I just remember, maybe 25 years ago, about bone marrow transplants were like complicated and hard and all that. But then I've heard recently, I can't remember who I heard it from, but now it's almost like non-invasive, not non-invasive, it is invasive, but it's
Sure.
very less on the donor than it used to be.
Hopefully, yes.
That's what
I
I've
don't
heard.
know.
I've heard
Yeah.
like because I remember I don't even remember how I remember hearing about this when I was younger, but it was very onerous on the donor. Like, they had to go in your hip bone or they
Okay.
drill in to your
Okay.
bones somewhere. I think it's your hip
Okay.
that they drill into. And I think it's less of a burden on the donor.
Okay.
So what I'm getting at is that I think over time, like as technology and medicine gets better and better
Yeah.
and better, I think another question I had was when you mentioned there's 100,000 people waiting for a transplant, um, the chances of that happening versus the chance of the living donor. Like, what are those stats
Right.
like? I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I know there's a scoring system in place to kind of determine who is most in need of that transplant
versus,
versus another individual.
got it.
So with there's always more need than there are organs to go around. So really just impressing upon people to be registered. Um, that's another kind of completely different arena within transplantation that has fascinated me. Just the legal side of things and
Yeah,
the
man.
Organ Donor Act and
Yeah.
the protections that now exist to protect, donors and recipients from not being discriminated against for like life insurance and things like that.
Mm.
So there's lots of
Oh, wow.
different
Yeah.
factors that are involved. It's not just one person out of the goodness of their heart wants to do something and it can just happen,
Yeah.
right?
It's
There's
not
a
that
lot of
easy.
things that have to go into it. Um, I, in sharing my story over the last couple of years, my hope not only increase awareness so people register and consider being a living donor if they feel called to do so, if that need arises in their life, but also just for people to know that we all can impact the lives of others with our own gifts, and being good stewards of what you have, the capacity that you have to influence others. Um, and so that's kind of really where I'm focused
Yeah.
these days, on just helping people realize that we all matter, our stories matter, we have the ability to influence others for good. I had an opportunity as part of, I'm going to grab
Yeah.
this book here. During the first time that I was um, at Mayo Clinic for the first surgery,
Hmm.
prior to the first surgery, before it was canceled, I was just strolling around the campus and they have many gift shops. And I discovered this little book of Mayo Clinic values. And because that procedure was canceled that day, I brought the book
Yeah.
home. I read
Yeah.
it cover to cover. And I thought, when the surgery was rescheduled for May 17th, I thought, I'm going to bring my book with me and I'm going to just have everybody that cares for me sign my book.
Oh, wow.
And I have over 150 signatures in
My
this book.
gosh.
And one of the really cool things, because I'm all about values,
Uh-huh.
organizational values, mission, that kind of thing. And the organizational values of Mayo Clinic have the acronym Rich Ties. And so I can show you, but if your viewers are going to be able to see this, but I have my barista from my favorite coffee shop. She was one of the first signatures that I got from Fiddlehead Coffee. And I also have both of my surgeons and my hepatologist and nurse all sign on the same page. So it's just kind of a testament to the fact that the barista and the surgeon's signatures are on the same page,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Everybody
Yeah.
had an
Walk of life. Like we
influence
yeah.
on my life
Yeah.
and my experience, no matter what their title.
Yeah.
And people were so appreciative of being given the invitation to sign this book. I brought you a copy of the book
Oh,
as
thank you.
well, because the other cool thing about this book
Thank you.
is that Mayo Clinic Press publishes all kinds of books, but all of the proceeds go towards research that
Okay.
is done. And one of the other cool things that I was able to do with the transplant was they asked if I would be willing to allow them to take specimens of bile and other things to keep in their research labs so that when researchers are doing research projects, they can acquire those specimens to
You'll
use. Correct, my
okay.
bile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to authorize
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But there's just a lot of fascinating things. And, I just hope that people have an open mind to be willing to serve.
Yeah. So let me ask you about the donor list part. Because like I told you, mine was pretty simple. I ran a race and they took a swab and now I'm a bone marrow donor
Right.
on a registry. So like statistics, I was an economics major. I ended up being economics and I'm into
Okay.
statistics. But like if there's 100,000 people a year that need a liver transplant and there's 350 million people, there's a match
Yeah,
somehow, right?
17. I think the statistic is 17 people die every day
Ugh.
without receiving that transplant gift. And honestly, even though you might be a registered donor, those organs may not be for whatever reason due to the
Yeah, no,
circumstances
I
of your
get that. I'm
death.
just,
They
yeah,
might not be viable
yeah,
to be transplanted. There's
yeah,
so much logistics.
yeah.
If you ever have an opportunity to see a screening of the movie The Burden of Genius, it is about Dr. Starzl, and it's very it explores the history of transplantation and just how difficult it used to be to physically fly
Yeah, yeah,
organs from one state to the other in time to
yeah,
get to the recipient. And it's just fascinating. So, yeah,
yeah.
I,
I think I mean, I picture in my head like either a TV show or a movie where the transplant is, being rushed, like
right.
as soon as the person is like dead on the street and they're going to the hospital. And it's like, so I get it. It's not that way
No,
anymore
no,
or
no.
ever. Like, yeah,
There are definitely regulations,
yeah.
as there should be, making sure that that you're protecting life, right? You're trying to
No, I know
resuscitate people. I mean, I
that's
know
the
that
part.
there's
Yeah.
been things in the news recently that I think have been a little disturbing. But there's regulations for a reason to make sure that protocols are followed for safety and dignity of the human person. And so, if a person has authorized to be a donor,
Hmm.
that only after that circulatory death or the brain death, whatever the protocols are that have to be followed, are followed, then and only then are organs taken
Yeah.
for transplantation.
Um, I don't know how many people out there have a trust or set up a trust or a
Mm-hmm.
will. We just did this, so my
Yeah.
wife and I just did it like last week,
Yeah.
and part of it was, power of attorney and all that, but
Right.
also we were both donors on our license, but
Yeah.
there's this thing that they make you sign because we have like an estate and the will or whatever, some document, but
Okay.
they make you sign whether it's not a DNR, but it's if you are incapacitated and you
Healthcare
can't
power of attorney.
a healthcare power of
Yeah.
attorney, and then when you say you don't want to be
Right. Resuscitated.
resuscitated or you want, like it's all lost, right? You're dead, but you're like still alive on machines and stuff. That was the part where like you sign that away and it become then your organs are able to be donated.
Right.
And I just learned this last week, and
Yeah.
it's crazy that we're talking about
Well,
it.
and the other thing that was kind of a piece of our story as well. We just 3 years ago, in preparation for the transplant, Mayo Clinic urges all donors to have living will, have
Yeah.
healthcare power of attorney in place, and we didn't have that, and we were kind of in a rush. And I don't know if you're fortunate to know the Gorsline family, but
Oh wait, I think I do. Are they
Mike and
swimmers?
Mo.
Were they?
Um,
No, I'm thinking of
they're
somebody
both
else.
attorneys in town, and we happen to be family friends with them. Our
Hmm.
kids have participated in sports together. And so my husband reached out to Mike and said, "Hey, we're kind of in a rush to get this documentation
Yeah.
done. We have to have it on file at Mayo Clinic. He's like, come in, we'll get it all situated. And yeah, so that's very, very important to have those things in place. The other thing that I overhear a lot of the staff at Iowa Donor Network when they do presentations in the community, one of the things that they talk about is make your wishes known to your family and friends, because it's way easier to talk about this stuff when we're just talking about it right
Yes, I
here in your
agree.
living room
Yep.
versus when
Yeah.
it's death is imminent.
Right.
And so, I think we
Yeah.
all kind of think, oh, that'll happen someday.
Yeah.
We're kind of not thinking about death as it's going to happen now, but no one's guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's no playbook
right,
unless you write it.
right.
Right. And I know that was kind of one of the things that I learned pretty quick. And my dad, so I have two brothers, an older brother, a younger brother, and my dad. My dad's still alive. He's 81.
Okay.
And my older brother and my younger brother, they all live in Boston area.
Okay.
But I just remember when my mom passed away, it was like, okay, now what? Like it was just, they don't teach
Right.
you a process. And why I'm talking about it even now is that same exact thing with this new setting up an estate and a will. Now my daughters need to know, right?
Yes.
Like
Right.
it's that kind of that conversation. I feel like it's it's part of life, right? But
Right.
it took my mother's passing for me to learn to be prepared, like you're talking about, which is kind of morbid, but it's not.
It's kind of
It's
like
not
it's kind
though.
of like what we started the conversation with of preparing your body, right?
Yeah,
You're gonna age.
yeah,
You're like
right. You can't forget about
nobody
it
can
forever.
have a fast
Right,
pass out without
right.
that going through aging.
Yeah,
But it's like if you do the work now to
it's
set it up,
yeah.
you're going to be
That's a perfect
much more
analogy.
successful
Yeah,
when the
no, it's
time comes.
perfect because you hear, and I've heard so many horror stories about bad situations when someone passes away and it destroying families over
Mm,
money.
right,
Most of the time it's
right,
money or
right.
like a house or
Well, and you're
who's getting.
grieving, so you're not
Yes,
thinking clearly.
yeah,
So it's much better to sort those details out when
yeah,
people aren't emotionally making decisions
yep,
because they're in pain.
yeah, yeah.
So,
All right, so
yeah.
to kind of maybe summarize, what are let's go over again like the resources. So like what blows me away is the fact that there's like 350 million people and there has to be a match for there has to it just makes sense. And that's just the
Mhm.
United States, right? So that my
Right.
other question was going to be, is there like an international type network? And
Super
if
familiar with that. I mean, I know that, for instance, the two websites I always lead people to is
okay,
registerme.org.
okay.
That's
So
the
that's an easy
national
one. So
registry.
registerme.org.
Correct.
That's pretty easy.
Registerme.org, and then
Okay.
iowadonornetwork.org. So if you're an Iowan,
Yep.
there's networks in every state, but those would be the easiest things. And then you can register when you go in. I think even now there's a new, I forget the name of the act that was passed in legislation, but if you get a fishing license, hunting license, they now have the ability to
Oh,
register as organ donors when you're
okay.
doing those processes, in addition to renewing your licenses at the DMV.
Okay, so one other question I think that I don't know if we answered or skipped over, but what if you want to become a living donor of a liver
Hmm.
that's specific, right? Like, do you have
Yeah,
to identify that that's what you want to do?
yeah.
Is that the case? Okay, and then is there anything that the donor needs to do other than
I mean,
signing up?
most transplant centers, I would encourage people to select a transplant center that they would want to explore that with.
Okay,
So, University of Iowa has a transplant center,
okay,
Mayo Clinic in Rochester does. There's many across the nation.
yeah,
I only ended up in the Mayo Clinic system because
the
Dr.
first one,
Kumar
right?
was a
No,
patient
I
there.
guess I'm getting at like when they took the swab from me for the bone marrow. Is there any physical test or blood test or anything? Is there anything that you need to
No,
do? You can just sign up,
it
and
would
then
be, yeah,
if they
just declaring that you want to be in the pool, so to
okay,
speak, and then they take it from there.
okay,
However, so through sharing my story, meeting people, um, a friend, a local friend, has a high school classmate who I learned recently is looking for a living liver donor. She's also in mid 60s, and has liver disease, that she's developed, and she has sought out using social media to share a flyer that she created. I
Hmm.
mean, honestly, social media is really
Helps.
helpful,
Yeah.
gets the word out there. So someone could literally see her flyer and decide, yes, I want to help John,
Yeah.
and reach out to you. You would be affiliated with a transplant center because you're on the transplant list, which she is.
Yeah.
And then she would put you in touch with the
And
transplant
then go
center,
through
and
the
then they would
process
go
from
through the
there. Okay.
process. And I don't know that every transplant center handles it the same, where they
Hmm.
do evaluation of one person at a time before they move forward. Um, because that seemed to me kind of slow.
Yeah.
That if I were to look at it now, that delayed, right?
Six
Because the
weeks.
person that they were looking at eventually could not move forward.
Yeah.
So that delayed my start,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if every
Yeah.
transplant center handles it the same.
Hmm. Okay. Well, a lot of stuff. And this, so I know you talked a little bit more. I mean, I'm still fascinated with what the liver does because I
Hmm.
don't know if a lot of people know like what it does. And I just assume that I know, but
Yeah, it detoxifies everything you put in your mouth.
yeah, like a filter. And we're in the
And
filter, like, so when it filters, it's filtering the blood though, right? Or is it filter like, because it's not like,
well, I don't know that answer.
yeah, but it does a lot of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, at least from what I've read, it's about 500 different
Okay.
functions, of detoxifying, definitely detoxifying. And, one of the questions I get asked is, can you drink alcohol? And I had to stop drinking alcohol prior to the testing. I could have resumed drinking alcohol 6 months after the procedure was done. I just have
Yeah.
chosen not to.
Yeah.
Kind of more understanding that alcohol is a toxin for my
Yeah.
liver to have to process.
Yeah.
Do I want to put the liver through
Yeah.
that? I have chosen not to. And kind of just in solidarity with my recipient, just, kind of
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, again, a minor frustration or inconvenience for me to remember that I gave the gift of life to another person.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So
It's really cool, actually. So do you think you'll ever meet her?
I hope so. I'm hoping, that I do plan to invite her to, or she may actually already be in Rochester in May
Oh,
of
so she's not from, oh, you
2026.
mentioned
She
that.
doesn't live, no,
Yeah.
she's from Illinois, but she lives in the Florida area now.
Okay.
And it's different for a recipient, right? Their life is changed in many, many ways, because your body never fully accepts the organ as its own organ. So there's rejection
Hmm.
meds,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
all
Yeah. There's
kinds
all
of
kinds of,
things
I
that
bet.
she will
Yeah.
be faced with
Yep.
moving forward. However, she is still alive.
Yeah.
So my hope is that she continues to have good quality of life. But I do plan to invite her, let her know about the Med City Marathon, and
Hmm.
perhaps we can convene in Rochester for our third liversary.
Hmm. I feel like, I mean, I'm not a skeptic or negative, but I feel like the question I asked earlier about knowing versus not knowing or wanting to know versus not wanting to know, to me, I feel like you had mentioned it earlier. Sometimes, you don't know what caused her
Mm-hmm.
condition, whether
Mm-hmm.
she was an alcoholic or whatever. It just happened. 'Cause that happens. And I feel like if it was me and then I meet this person or know that they continue to do something bad, I'd be pissed. I would. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just feel like I would be like, wait, you got a chance, a second chance at life. Somebody
Yeah.
else didn't.
Given
And
them,
then I know, I'm just saying
yeah,
that's the way
I just never, that has never entered my consciousness. You know, and I've been an open book with her. She has not been an open book with me. I have tried to share pictures and different things just because I really want her to understand. And I really want her to understand that the reason she got the liver was because Dr. Omar died. I mean, I would
She
never
doesn't
have
know
been
that.
I would never have been her donor
But does she
had
know? She
that. She
doesn't know.
does.
Oh, she does
She
know.
does know
Okay.
that. Yeah. So you know, and that's a special bond that I'll always have with the Omar family.
Yeah.
Just trying to help him, which ultimately didn't, the outcome wasn't what we hoped. But I do believe that as a pediatrician in our area for decades, that that would have been a choice he would have made
Yeah.
was to press on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was really pretty special. After I got home from Mayo Clinic after the transplant, I was able to meet Dr. Omar's daughters, and he would routinely wear animated
Yeah. Yeah.
ties
Yeah.
as a pediatrician. So they gifted me one of his ties,
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, Redfish, Bluefish. So
That's cool.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I don't know if you would like, but I would love to read
Go for
the
it.
first letter that Patty sent to me.
Do it.
This was on the eve of our 1 year anniversary. I had
So
reached,
handwritten.
she emailed it
Oh,
to me.
okay.
Yeah, she emailed it to me. So I had gotten her contact information. We both had gotten contact information at the 6 month mark. So I had reached out immediately
Yeah.
just because that's
Yeah.
who I am. And I didn't get a response. And so I really wasn't sure,
Yeah.
how will I ever hear from her? How soon will I hear from her? So this was sent on May 16th of 2023, or 2024 rather. Dear Stacia, my name is Patty, and 1 year ago on May 17th, you selflessly donated part of your liver to me. I know how I felt 1 year ago anticipating the surgery. I can't imagine what was going through your mind as a healthy woman knowing you were giving the gift of life to a total stranger. I know I was scared. It's hard to believe it's been a year. I thank you for your generous donation, and I think about you all the time. I hope your recovery has been good. Your liver is doing a great job for me. I'm in Rochester now for my year checkup, and every woman I see, I wonder if it's you. My husband, Brad, and I have 3 children and are blessed with 6 grandchildren. Because of you, I have been able to spend another year with my family and friends. I don't know what to say as I have so many thoughts running through my mind. I'm sure we both have many questions and thoughts we would like to share. Tomorrow is going to be a day of celebration and also emotional. I know one thing I'll be doing. I know one thing I'll be doing is thanking God for your gift of life to me. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And once again, thank you for being such a generous person. Gratefully, Patty.
I feel like kind of going full circle in the beginning when you mentioned your daughter is an opera singer, and I thought, that's kind of if no one else was a singer, that's pretty cool that she
Mm-hmm.
found that. And I feel like this topic to me feels like the only way other than word of mouth. It's not like people are going out there and finding this,
No.
you know what I mean? And so like to be able to share it and spread it, that's so I guess what I'm saying is that now I know, and now like I'm sure I don't know, but maybe all your kids are signed up to be.
Oh, of
So
course.
what I mean, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
then it kind of like,
It's the ripple.
yes, this
Mm-hmm.
ripple effect of, all right, wow, I didn't know that that's out there, and I feel like maybe some people are selfish and they'll be like, well, you know, but if you're the recipient part,
You know
you know
what?
what I mean? If you're, I don't know. I feel like it now that I know, it's like, why wouldn't I do it?
Honestly, I think one of the bigger hesitations oftentimes is people think, oh, I don't possibly have anything they could use. Like, I'm too old, there are so many myths
Yeah,
around age
yeah,
and all of that that
yeah,
people disqualify themselves unnecessarily.
yeah.
I would say that happens a lot. So, I just encourage people to
Well,
get
is there too
get
young though
registered.
for the donor part?
Well,
I don't know.
for deceased. I mean, so
Oh
for
yeah, yeah,
instance,
yeah.
so I know that at least what I was told was if it were a child that needed a liver, they typically use a deceased donor because the child would receive the entire liver as opposed
Big
to a
piece.
lobe of it.
Yeah,
Um, but in terms of, I think you have to be 18
yeah.
to be a living
Legally.
donor.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think 18 was the,
a
I
living
think
donor.
living donor,
Okay,
correct.
got it.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say on the license, though, when you get
Yeah, I mean, when
it's
you're
whatever 14,
14,
you can
yeah,
become
you
a
could be
organ
registered.
donor. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that there's stipulations around like what if my child at the age of 14 designates they want to be a donor if they die, but then what happens if they die and the family doesn't want that? I don't know
Yeah,
legally
legally.
what happens
Yeah,
there.
because you're a minor.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not sure what happens.
Yeah. Huh.
I know they do, there's a framework in place to try to honor the wishes of the
Mm-hmm.
person. Um, but yeah, there's so many factors
Yeah.
surrounding it to make sure that it's equitable, that
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
not giving someone else higher priority that shouldn't, depending upon it's called a MELD score, is what I'm familiar with in terms of livers, in terms of your degree of sickness and the
Yeah.
degree of need that you have based upon others on the list.
Yeah, and like I
So,
said, the only point of reference that most people like me would have is like a TV show where there's two people that need it. One person's 85 and the other one's 21. You're like,
right,
what do you
right,
do?
right, right, right.
He's on the list ahead, but
But this person
what
has so
makes
much
more
more
sense?
life ahead of
Yes.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's why there
Yeah.
are regulations in
Yeah.
place to prevent the ethical dilemmas that probably occurred back when transplantation was first happening.
Yeah.
There now is a lot more survivability. And I don't really know all the statistics in terms of what is Patty's survivability
Yeah.
statistic on how long, and there's actually a friend of mine, her dad is a liver recipient, and I want to say he's had his liver 22 years,
Wow.
same liver.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it is fascinating.
Okay, so remind everybody one more time
Yes.
first about the Live Strong.
Yep, Live Strong at the YMCA. You can go to any one of the either Two Rivers YMCA Association or YMCA of the Iowa Mississippi Valley. Go to any of the member registration desks at any of the branches and ask about that. Free of charge to cancer survivors. And one other kind of cool element, not that it would be good news to have a cancer recurrence, but if a person has a cancer diagnosis and then years later they have a recurrence or a new cancer diagnosis, they can participate again. So we try to really eliminate the barriers for people participating just because we know it's going to help with quality of life, psychosocial support, and just overall functioning.
I have a question now.
Yeah,
That spurred a question in my
sure.
brain. So it's since 2011,
Hmm.
and then I'm sure that there's been people that have gone through it, right?
More than once.
More
Yep.
than once, maybe even. But then, let's just say they go through it once. Do you find, and maybe there's a correlation or not, but do you find that those people that went through it continue to do something on their own after?
Yeah, they
Okay.
do.
So, okay.
Yeah. And
That's
I
good.
mean, I think the Y make is so suitable for having a
Yeah.
program like that. They're
Yeah.
for healthy living, social responsibility, youth development.
Yep.
So the mission of the Y is a perfect match to collaborate with a
Yeah. Keep
program
going.
like
Keep
that.
doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then in terms of registering, certainly going to www.registerme.org is the national registry or iowadonornetwork.org.
Okay. What else? Anything else? You wanna?
I don't know. I think I'm good.
Okay. And what was it that I remember you reached out to me after Evan's episode, was
Yeah, it
it?
was. So, yeah, so I actually am either friends or acquaintances with many of your
Okay.
other guests.
Cousins.
Cousins with one, just, in fact, you talked about John Byrne. Has
Oh
he been
yeah.
a guest on the show?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this is actually a picture that was taken in my front yard prior to me going to Rochester,
Oh,
and this
wow.
is actually John's wife.
Oh, yeah.
So
Joan.
we're very good friends with the Byrne family.
Yeah.
But this sign was made from some neighbors,
Oh,
and I
wow.
had many members from my church come and do a little kind of prayer send off for me. And, I guess the other thing is no matter what we do in our lives, none of us arrives with having the impact we have on the world alone.
Yeah. Oh,
We
yeah.
are standing on the shoulders of many others who have prayed for us, supported us financially. Um, and I think the cool thing is that when we are courageous and we take chances to do something to impact another individual or a community of people, it gives other people courage.
Yeah.
And for instance, one other story that was pretty cool, I call all of these things God winks. I think about what I did, but what has now resulted from my actions in the actions other people have taken.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the process with the Gores Lines helping us with our living will, healthcare power of attorney, they actually made a donation to Mayo Clinic Living Donor Program in my name as a
Hmm.
result of my actions.
Yeah.
So, it just,
Yeah.
you said something at the beginning of our talk about service, and Simon Sinek had a recent quote that he shared on one of my emails that I get, and he said, um, asking for help is an act of service. And let us all not deny others the opportunity to support us. And so, I just think that's a profound
Yeah.
statement.
I like him.
And we can all serve in our
Yeah.
own unique way, big and small, to make that ripple effect. So,
Yeah. I think the other thing, it just gets me thinking about, like, don't sit on the sideline, right? I mean,
mm,
life is going on, and this is part of life. Like I mentioned, the hardest lessons I've had to learn were from somebody dying, and
mm-hmm,
that's part of life, though.
right.
That's kind of how I've turned that into, is like, it's just like you said, the exercise part going in the beginning, it's inevitable, right? So why
Mm-hmm,
not have a quality of
right.
life, right? Well, I really appreciate you doing this. I always feel like I get nervous, like, going into these, thinking like, what is someone gonna want to listen to this for?
Yeah.
And all of them.
Who knows?
Yeah, right.
That is the cool
Exactly.
thing.
Right.
You won't even know. We
Right.
won't
Right.
know
What
the
some good,
fruits
yeah.
that come
I hope.
from every one of the discussions that
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah, I hope
You
so.
know, I have a one quote that I'll share, and you'll read it in your book, but it's one of my favorites in this book. It's actually from John Wesley, who is the founder of the Methodist Church. And he said, do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the souls you can, for as long as you ever can.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing that,
Yeah.
man, going to make a difference.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I do.
I'm
It was a
delighted
good
to have been
conversation.
here. Yeah.
And I'll make sure I put all this links and stuff like that
Okay.
into this. So thank
Fabulous.
you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.